All right, if I may have your attention, please. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here with us, and a special thanks to Ralph Hauenstein and our very, very special guest for coming, Mr. Peter Wege. You know, Mr. Wege has made possible for us to have copies of his book, Economicology. We've been talking about some of the contents of this book. He's going to say much more about it, but it really is a dynamite concept. It's an idea that was the wrong metaphor. not an environmental friendly metaphor. It's a sunshine and windmills.
Good. Much better.
A very, very interesting approach where he has taken the wisdom, really, of the ages, as he'll be the first one to say. He's not inventing anything new here, but what he's done is being a good teacher. He has gathered what others have said and have put it together in the covers of one book. And we've asked you to read it. I hope you've enjoyed it. And to introduce Mr. Wege, I've asked Ralph Hauenstein to come forward and introduce a friend who goes back to right after World War II. Imagine that.
Wow.
Ralph, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I didn't realize how long I had known Peter. Peter and I go back from the time of World War II. We were both discharged about the same time in the late 40s, and we've known each other and been friends and acquaintances and done a lot of things through the years. Of course, there's one difference. During the war, Peter was a pilot, and I was a staff officer, afraid that bombs might land on me. But it didn't quite do it. Peter is well known probably from the Steelcase company. His father was one of the founders of Steelcase, in case you didn't know. His name was also Peter. And Peter himself has been a vice chairman of Steelcase for some years, but he now gives himself to greater causes above and beyond it. He's a graduate of the University of Michigan. He also holds the honorary Doctor of Law degree from the University of Michigan, as well as from Aquinas College. I could say a great many things about Peter. I was going through some of the things that he's accomplished and he's done, and I got along the list. I got after 20 of them, I couldn't keep on going anymore. And I thought, well, whatever I might say probably will be said by him in some context or another. And rather than me taking up any time, I can just assure you this, that he's a man who has led the cause of environment throughout the world. He's nationally known here because he's done so much in America, but he's also been abroad in a great many things. And if you see Lake Michigan as a great lake, keep it up, you can blame Peter. He's the man that's keeping us what we are there for the Great Lakes. So but his accomplishments really are legend, and I know he's going to tell you about some of them, and he's a great guy. He's a great guy. Peter, come on.
My introducer, Ralph, is one of the finest personalities that I know. He's a product of the Second World War, and he was a aide to Eisenhower in the European theater. I'm just a young man compared to Ralph. But I'm glad that he invited me out here today. I wrote a few things down because at my age and Ralph's age, you don't remember things as well as you used to. My slogan is, do as much good as you can, for as many people as you can, for as long as you can. Make that your sort of your memo for the rest of your life, and you'll never go wrong. I got into this environmental thing when I was a pilot during the Second World War, and was taking a training plane to West Point. So I had to stop in Pittsburgh to get some gas, and I couldn't find Pittsburgh because it was clouded in by smog and industrial smoke and so forth. So I called in and said, tell me where the airport is, I can't find it. So I said, give me a direction. So they said, fly 10 minutes off this direction. So I did. I said, I still can't see it. So he said, well, it's turn on the lights. So they turned on the lights, and I saw it way down there. So I just dived in and landed. But in those days, the environment was a lot worse than it is today, because people didn't think about pollution being a detriment to your health. So I landed the plane in West Point. It was a AT-6, which was a training plane. And then I went over to West Africa with a friend of mine, George Wells, whose father was pro here at Cascade, at Maury Wells. And George was a transport of fighter planes from the Northwest, I'm trying to think of up there to Alaska, and then the Russians would take them on from there to the war front. So we met down there. I asked our commander to see if I could go with George overseas. So we're going to Accra, West Africa. We took off from Florida, and we were going to the next airport. And so we get started down. It was 4:30 in the morning, pretty black. We started down the C-46. That was a transport in those days. It was loaded with cargo and 7 passengers. So we started down the runway, and I was co-pilot. We were going to split the time going over. So I was co-pilot, and then the tail wouldn't rise up. It had to rise up before we take off. So it didn't rise up when we got halfway down the runway. So automatically, without thinking, I just reached over and pulled the throttle back, and we settled down and worked it down to the end of the runway. We got back to where the loading was, and they had put 600 pounds in the tail, which shouldn't have been there. So that was my first experience of saving my life. Then we took off from Jamaica to British Guiana. And we tried to take off in the morning before the clouds really got high, because in those days we couldn't fly over 12,000 feet. And so we got to these buildup of clouds, and we couldn't go any higher, so we had to go through them. So we went through the middle of these rain clouds, and the rain was so intense that it took us down from 12,000 feet to 6,000 feet and almost shut the engines off. So we got through, and the engines came back up. So that's the second time I almost lost it. And then on the trip from Brazil to Ascension Island, which was a tiny little dot between Brazil and North Africa, we had to land there to get gas because you couldn't make it all the way across with a twin-engine plane. So we took off, and the guy, the navigator, was looking out the window and this, that, and the other thing, and he was doing all of what he should be doing. And I said, okay, where is it? I don't see it. So I wasn't supposed to put the radio on because of German submarines. So I said, the hell with that. I turned on the compass, and it pointed that way. So I just dove in, and we landed in that island, that tiny island, with only about 20 minutes gas supply left. So that's 3 things in that one flight that I could have lost it. So I'm happy to be here today. So I wrote some things down here. I'll read it to you because my memory isn't that great anymore.